Welcome to Women in B2B Marketing, a show where CMOs, VPs of marketing, and all strong women leaders in B2B discuss their top tactics, strategies, and tips for building high-performing teams, leveraging trends, and ultimately rocking their marketing careers. Made by and for women, insightful for all. I'm your host and 15-year B2B marketer, Jane Serra. Let's dive in. Hi, everybody. Thank you for joining us for another episode of Women in B2B Marketing. Super excited to have a LinkedIn star with us today, Tenisha Griggs, who is the founder and CEO at 37X Digital Marketing Agency. She brings 15 plus years of experience in marketing, media, and across B2B and B2C brands. And I'm super excited to talk all about her entrepreneurship and building her business and dive right in. So thank you for joining us, Tenisha. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Jane.
So excited to talk. I feel like I see you everywhere on LinkedIn. You're always traveling. I think just now you said you just got back from Mexico and you're about to go somewhere else. So you're out and about and always on stages. And I love that. So kudos. Keep doing you.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I was just thinking, I took a little break from LinkedIn because I've been traveling so much for the last couple weeks. And then I was getting DMs like, where are you? Are you okay? And I was like, at least people care.
Yeah. I love that. People check in because they probably ring your bell on LinkedIn and they're like, I haven't seen anything from her.
And it's crazy because it's like a stat out there that LinkedIn has 1 billion users or subscribers monthly, and less than 1% of them actually post. So a large subset of content comes from a very small margin on there. And I was just like, that's why it's so noticeable when someone goes absent on LinkedIn. But like I said, at least people are looking for me. So
there you go. Yeah, you're covered. If you ever go missing, we'll hunt everyone down. I always love to start out the show hearing about your journey to where you are today. So owning your own agency, what got you into this world of B2B marketing?
Yeah, I think it's 2 parts to that. The first is what got me into B2B marketing. I spent a large stint of my career at AT&T where I was more on the consumer side. And I did a myriad of roles in marketing. And during the time, AT&T had just acquired Time Warner and DirecTV, and they were really going through this shift of being a telecom company to wanting to be in the entertainment space as well, too.
Yeah.
And so it required a large subset of their leaders to relocate to New York or LA. And so, of course, they want the teams to follow suit as well. And at the time, I had a 1-year-old and my position was relocated to LA. So I was like, I'm just going to take the severance package and stay in Atlanta, where I just had much more of a community to support me and my family. And I was then in the job market, and I started to look in the tech space because tech had really been booming in the Atlanta region. And so I decided to work for a tech company, and they were in the marketing technology category, focused specifically on ABM, account-based marketing, and B2B. And that's where I obtained a master class from some of the just most prominent thought leaders in that space. And while we were a small company, the thought leadership was just incomparable. And so a lot of these leaders are still in our space and just thriving and doing well. But I was really fortunate to have that experience.
Very cool. And now, what brought you part 2 of this into building your own company? How did you know when it was time? Was it always something in the back of your head, or did something trigger it? And how did you get into that?
Yeah, things come full circle. So my job was relocating while I was T. And I decided to take a severance, and I was late. And then I spent 6 years at Term. That was the account-based marketing company. And I feel like the equivalent, so the average tenure in the tech space is about 2 years, at a specific company. And I equated it to how you think about dog years. And you're for every year, 7 years. I feel like tech is like that. So for every year, for me to spend 6 years, I felt like it was 30 in dog years.
Especially with all the growth Terminus went through too, for sure.
So I saw just a lot of turnover, which was normal, which is normal in our space.
Yeah.
I saw several different leadership changes and team changes, but we then too had some similar changes in terms of we had a PE company come in and take over. And then what happens when PE companies come over? They lay people off. They have to be more lean and efficient. It was definitely a silver lining there because I had such a great relationship with the leadership team and the company still. I actually decided to, upon getting laid off, start my own company. And so when you talk about what triggered that, like some people,
Yeah.
you take a leap of faith and you start your entrepreneurship journey. I was pushed off that cliff.
Yeah.
And, but it's okay because I love the quote, you can learn to fly like when you're in the air. And so I learned to fly while I was in the air, and I started my own entrepreneurship company, my own company and my entrepreneurship journey. And
Yeah.
Terminus became my first client. So they actually contracted me to do all their ad operations. So I was still managing $50 million of
Wow.
media spend for them under my own company, which was a full circle moment. And I think the
Yeah.
bit to take away from that is you just never know like how these relationships can evolve and turn into something else. So you just have to continue to perform well, do a good job, really build great relationships with people at your company,
Yeah.
because maybe they won't use you as a contractor, but maybe one of those leaders goes to another company and they pull you over, or maybe that company was acquired by another company. And when they're thinking of laying off people, like you're not on that list. So I just think that
Yeah.
there's a lot of value in maintaining great relationships with companies and building your own personal brand and just be a high performer and just do a good job.
Yes. Yeah. And that's such a testament to your success and your impact at Terminus that
Mhm.
when you went out on your own, they brought you back in to
I
hire.
and
So that's awesome.
it's so crazy because like we think about impact and I see like women leaders, like there's countless women leaders that I've had the privilege of working with and for throughout my career, or just people that I've never worked with but are like motivational speakers or just really
Yeah.
good business women that I admire and I try to learn from, even if it's from afar. And it's hard sometimes to see yourself in that light that other people see you.
Yeah.
And it
Yes.
wasn't until years later that I did a women's workshop for my company, and it was like most of the women in the company. And it was a lot of male leaders there too, because they were coming in as allies to us. And
Nice.
I had a quote that I said there where they were talking about just, is it harder in terms of being a woman in the workplace and having to compete? And I was like, you know what? Be so damn good, you're undeniable. And
Yeah.
like 2 years later, someone said, I will never forget that quote that you said there. And I was just thinking, I don't know, it was just surreal to know that the things that I say and the impact that I have, like people listen. And
Yeah.
I don't know, it's just different when it's yourself.
Yes.
I don't know if you
I
experience that.
completely resonate with that. I feel like it probably ties back to imposter syndrome or just
For
that we
sure.
don't, like you say, we see ourselves differently than we see other people. But it goes back to like how important feedback is and in
Mhm.
building those relationships, but telling people like if somebody is impacting you or has inspired you or it said something that stuck with you, tell
Yes.
them.
Yes.
I know I worked with a coach so many years back who the first exercise in working with them was to write thank you notes to anybody who impacted our career, like just physical notes and mail it to them. And that was the coolest exercise because it gets you to just reflect and you're sending, like, imagine getting a note saying, I just wanted to say hi and thank you for this moment. Like somebody remembering verbatim what you said that day. It just makes your heart grow like the Grinch, right? Like it's,
I love that because it makes me think of like postcards. Like we don't
yeah,
use postcards anymore, but you would get a postcard and you would write, "Hey, I have arrived. Just
yeah,
want here." And I love,
yeah.
and I feel like the next time we get the opportunity, Jane, I'm going to think of
Yes.
you and I'm going to do it. I promise you. I'm going to have my
Yes.
team write on there a postcard, leaders or people that really influence them because no one gets
Yes.
here by themselves. No one, we never arrive anywhere by ourselves. Someone gave us some type of direction to get to every place that we've gone. And so I love
Wow.
that. I think we just like
Yes.
Created something.
I always say whenever I get goosebumps, I have crazy goosebumps. I love how you just brought that home of the I have arrived postcard movement, because you're right. It's such a good parallel. We used to send postcards to family when we arrived somewhere. This is like postcards when you've arrived in your career to everyone who got you there.
We just created
That's
something.
so good. Right? A new hashtag. Postcard movement.
We're going to bring them back. Because everything, if you look at like clothes, just trends, vinyls, like music, everything comes full circle. And they say nothing new is created under the sun. And those postcards, we can bring them back.
I love that. Yeah. Me too. And also just think about how positively this would impact other people. And then they get to see themselves in the light that other people do. Because I know sometimes I feel like I'm a kid and I'm like, oh, wait, I'm doing that. Okay. I'm on stage. Like it's like weird to close that gap for yourself. So it's great to hear that reassurance from other people.
For sure. I love that.
And we also, so going into just super impressive moments and like you making this impact, you went out on this entrepreneur journey or were pushed into it and flew. Yes. What have you learned so far? Like, I'm sure there's been like struggles and some like really exciting moments. What has stuck with you that you can share with us?
Yeah, so I'm an open book, and I feel like this is definitely a chapter book that it's hard to summarize in like a few moments. But in terms of the entrepreneurship journey, one is like your personal brand is like core. It's just essential to build that out and to focus on that, because when you think about a company, we don't necessarily, if you think about who you follow online, you're not following Coca-Cola or Delta. Like you're following people who use these products. Like you're following the jet setters who's all board in a plane and they look fly with their luggage and their outfits. And they make flying look cool and like to travel somewhere look cool. That's how I think about companies. And so a lot of the times I'm realizing like people are buying because they like me. Like they're buying my services because they believe in me. And I really feel like you have to really refine yourself and before you start your brand, because to the point where you're like, I see you on LinkedIn and I see you posting, that's me, not necessarily my brand, my company. And so I definitely had to really do some soul searching to figure out like who I am, who I want to be, and what type of leader I want to be, like how I want people to perceive me, and do some like real work around that. And then I created my company. So even like before I created my company, I took 3 months off work and I took the summer off. I did all the trips, Jane. I did all the vacations.
You should.
And I just wanted to be me and not be a brand, not be Terminus, not be AT&T. And that really helped me because when I started 37, it's still me that I'm focusing on. And when I think about how I even acquired my first 10 customers, it was through relationships. It was through me. And I took a founder-led approach with like when we talk about B2B, there's B2B growth strategies. You got sales-led, marketing-led, event-led, founder-led, community-led. It's, I think, 8 kind of core B2B growth strategies. I really leaned in on the founder-led, and I leveraged my network and literally acquired logos like Microsoft, the National Center of Civil Human Rights. I did work with like big brands and a lot more in the pipeline. Zero marketing. Like I haven't run one ad, sent one email sequence. And I'm not saying that's the only way to do it. I'm just saying that you really have to like find your rhythm and figure out what's going to work for you. But I think that like for me, focusing on me first was key to building that foundation. I was able to layer because I don't want to lose myself in this company. Like I don't want to lose who I am if my company fails. Like I want to still be me and still have a foundation so that if I start another company, then I'm layering that on. That's not who
Yes. So a couple things I'm unpacking from this is you took a break in between, right? So to reset and re-explore yourself again, right? And find out what you really wanted and what you wanted to do and who you are, and make sure you sat in that before creating a company. And how do you, I love that you're separating yourself, because so many people are like, go into this is my baby, like it's a part of me. And then if something happens to that, it really tears you down. I
No,
love that you have a separation.
yeah, I have a kid. I'm a mom. I have a
Yeah.
9. My baby is my baby.
Yeah.
There's no separating. There's no, oh, if he fails, okay, I'm gonna give him away.
Yeah.
Like, it's not an option.
Yeah.
My company is not my baby. Like,
Yeah.
and so I
I love that.
never want to tie myself to things that, like, I saw this video a while back and it talked about prioritizing like your life. And it talked
Yeah.
about, I don't know if you've seen the video, but it was this professor and he had a glass and he put rocks in it. He put a lot of big rocks in there. And he
Yeah.
said, is this cup full? And people said yes. And then he added pebbles and the pebbles went between the rocks. And then he said, now is it full? And they said yes. Then he added sand in there and it went between. And so it was a prioritization effort. It's saying, hey, you know what? This cup looked full before, but you can continue to add things. But the big rocks are those essential things in your life. Those are your kids, your faith,
Yeah.
your family, your health. The pebbles are things that augment. That's money, that's your job, your career. The sand is the little small things, those little vacations. Those are the little hobbies and things that you like.
Yeah.
But if we're not careful, we'll make the little rocks the big rocks. And we'll make the sand the big rocks. And then
Yes.
a big rock and everything can't be a big rock. And
Mhm.
so my company for me is important, but it's there to augment like my happiness. It's not my happiness. And so my kid, my family, my faith, my relationships, like those are the big rocks and they're going to stay the big rocks. So I think that's really important when you think about your entrepreneurship journey, is prioritizing that from the start so that 80% of plus businesses fail. Do you really want to bank on 20% of that, your happiness being on a number of a 20% rate? And so I definitely think that we all go into it thinking we're going to succeed and we're going to be so successful. But what if we're not? This is probably the 10th business I've started. I've started a lot of stuff, quit, tried, failed, in between jobs, during jobs. And if my happiness depended on all of them, I would be sitting here miserable right now. And I'm not.
Yes. That's so, I love that. I feel like everybody, often what I see is people like are so entrenched in their job. And it's, oh, I've mentioned this before. It's like the Shark Tank syndrome. Because if you ever watch an episode of Shark Tank, every episode, they're like, oh, this person is, I'm out because you're not devoted into it. You have another job while you're creating this company. I'm like, that is crazy. Because if they put their all, they quit their job, they weren't paying themselves for 2 years. First of all, we don't all have the money that these sharks have to be able to do that.
But that's privilege speaking.
Yes.
Because you realize that everybody can't afford to do that. Like that, someone told me, they were like, oh, you can just quit your job and start. So that's the rich person.
Yes, exactly.
Like, who's going to feed this kid? And I have a dog.
Exactly. You have 2 babies already.
I have a 95-pound dog.
Like a lot of food. I love that, because you can also, we can see anybody who follows you on LinkedIn, listeners, if you're not already, follow Tenisha, because I'm telling you, you'll thank me. But if you follow her, you know that she loves her company and her company is thriving. And it's so cool to see everything she's doing, but it still doesn't have to be her baby. Like you can love it and put your all into it, but still have that separation.
Yes. And I think that you go into it with that mindset, so that my mentor always says, keep the main thing. Like, my main things are my family, my health, all of that. Because then too, what do people do? They work themselves to death. They don't exercise. They don't eat right. Your main thing's your health. If you don't have your health, everything else fails. So if you don't keep the main thing, then you're going to make it your job, your career, or what happens when you get laid off? I'm telling you, when I got laid off, my boss was in tears. What he thought was for me. And he was like, you took this way better than I took it. And I said, because I'm a person of faith, I know that whatever's on the other side of this is going to work out. And I never expected to retire from Terminus. I never expected to retire from AT&T. You know, so I knew one day that my tenure, my time here would expire, would be done. And like, if you go into that expectation, when that comes, you're already prepared. It's like something you prepared yourself for. And so it's just the circle of life, the evolution of life, that we
Yeah.
know that these things are going to happen. Now, when they actually happen, yeah, we may not necessarily know the impact or significance of that moment, but you just expect it. So for me, I knew at some point I wouldn't work at Terminus anymore. The terms of that, how I would leave, that I
Yeah.
didn't know. But when that time came, it's okay. And that's why I said, because at that time, my health was still fine. My family was
Yeah.
still, my faith was still intact. All my main things was none of my big rocks shook.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I just think it's important. Anybody who's thinking about starting a career in entrepreneurship, like you can still have that balance. You can
Yeah.
still maintain your sense of self and who you are. And you can still give your all to it, but you don't have to lose yourself in it as well too. Because a lot of people will scare you into entrepreneurship. And don't let that be the case at all. I'm not saying it's been
Yeah.
easy, but everybody doesn't have a hard struggle journey. I don't have a hard struggle journey. Like
Yeah.
my prior company became my first client within the first 30 days of me starting my company. And so for me, I wasn't like missing meals. Clearly, I don't look like I'm missing meals. Like, I wasn't missing meals
I
or
love.
have that struggle story. And so I remember someone posted when I announced like I had started my company, someone posted on one of my threads, Jane, and he was like, "Oh, you're welcome to entrepreneurship. Look, here comes 80-hour work weeks." And I'm not saying there
Yeah.
aren't weeks that I don't work more hours. But what I'm saying is that doesn't have to be the norm. You,
Yes.
with entrepreneurship, a blank canvas. You can paint this picture
Yes.
however you want. If you want to paint 80-hour work weeks in, sure, do it. But I'm just saying you don't have to. When I started my company, the first hire before I had a client, I got a VA, a virtual assistant in the Philippines.
Yeah.
And she was
Yes.
able to help me do the administrative tasks, write up contracts, help me with my website. Like we literally spent up a whole website, brand, logo, everything from ideation to launch in 2 weeks.
Wow.
And so she was my first hire, $800 a month. And I was able to accomplish all of this. So you also too don't have to go into a tremendous amount of debt starting a company. I started with a services based company where I didn't have to invest in overhead and products and things that I need to like invest in a big overhead. It was just me and her.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, it's so cool. You talked about before we turned on the mics that becoming an entrepreneur. So this journey, it affects you like physical, financial, and emotional sides to it, like the different journeys you've been through, different aspects of this journey. We talked a little about each of these, but what is there anything we haven't touched on yet with the physical, financial, emotional impacts that being out on your own takes on you or
Yeah,
has on you?
so I've seen like really successful women in entrepreneurship, seen really successful women in corporate. And then in terms of like how that transition from corporate to sole entrepreneurship, I didn't really hear a lot of stories, I think, in terms of what people actually experience from an emotional, financial perspective. Like from the financial perspective, you're going from having a stable salary that you depend
Yeah.
on every 2 weeks. And then you go to entrepreneurship and every other Friday, nothing's coming for you.
Yeah.
It's like that sense of security to let go. I'm not going to lie. I can't say I lost that desire for that. Okay.
Yeah.
And I don't know how long it's going to take me where I don't have that desire from that to just think every 2 weeks, like I have something
Yeah.
I know coming in. It's hard to let go of that emotional aspect of it. So I put on LinkedIn, I was in my feelings one day, and I'm very vulnerable on LinkedIn because that's the thing that I was saying for that transition from corporate to entrepreneurship. I feel like we just need to hear more stories and
Yes.
hear what people are dealing with and experience so that we don't think that we're like this is abnormal or like we're feeling something that no one else has felt before. Because I feel like
Yeah.
it's common, but just not as talked about. But
Yep.
I felt a sense of a high of rejection like throughout this period because if you think about it, we're converting for our B2B stats, and on average, we're converting 10 to 20% of B2B business. That's the norm.
Yeah.
And so let's just
Mm-hmm.
call it 20%. That means 80% of the time we're getting rejected. And
Yep.
that's not easy. I'm constantly feeling like I'm begging people for calls, begging people to respond to my email, and then them saying, no, I don't like, can you imagine you're a woman and you're outside, even if you think about, I'm in a relationship, but if you think about going to think of dating and you're like asking guys for their number and you're like, hey, can I get your number? They're like, no, 80% of the time. That's kind of how I feel.
That's going to hit your ego for sure.
Yeah, especially too when you've been in corporate, you've been such a high performer and everybody wants you on their team and everybody's, hey, Tenisha, come work on my team. I really love the work that you're doing. And now it's the inverse.
Like, but what about me? Yeah.
That's what it feels like in terms of entrepreneurship. So there's an emotional shift. So even when it came down to the year mark, I was like, I'm in a slump. I had done successful in terms of like my first year. I had 15 active clients, big logos. Yeah. And I was like, this is uncommon. I'm that 20% now of businesses that didn't fail. Why am I in a slump? Why do I feel bad? Mm-hmm. And I was like, because it's just the emotional shift of being rejected and messing with your ego and your self-worth and your value. And that's why you need to have a foundation before you go into this. Because if you become this, then you become that 80% of the failures. Like you can easily absorb that. So you have to come analyze. You have to keep them separate. And so I got out of my funk, but it was a big emotional shift to corporate to entrepreneur. I don't want to scare people in. I just want to go into it and know, hey, if you're in that same phase and you're experiencing that, like at least being able to connect the dots and say, maybe this is what I'm feeling. Or either kind of survival's remorse of it, where you're like, hey, like, how did I get so lucky to be that 20%?
Yeah.
It's a lot that goes through your head. That's interesting.
Yeah. It's just, this is human psyche, right? We're always up and down and questioning things, good or bad. We'll find something to tear down.
Trying to understand everything when everything's not meant to be understood. But that's our wiring. That's how we're conditioned.
So true. Do you recall, and tell me if I'm wrong in my perception here. I feel like you're at the point where people are reaching out to you to speak, to work with, and people are coming inbound. When did it transition, or has it always been this way, from like you having to reach out to people starting to come in at you?
Yeah, so I feel like it started transitioning but when you start to really create a brand for yourself, and there's this perception of you that's successful. Like if I was posting on LinkedIn, I'm a starving business, I'm not able to get clients. People don't see me as an agency that like, they're not going to work with you because they feel sorry for you.
Yeah.
When you see an agency, they look like they're popping and they look like they have really big logos, and you're seeing big name brands work with them, and you're seeing them at these events and everybody looks happy and you look like you're successful. It's like a magnet. It attracts people to you. And so that's an approach that I like to take in terms of marketing. That's why people do influencer marketing and have ambassadors, because now you're attracting people to you because of that perception. And so I really started to like really focus and be more intentional about that. I feel like I started to see that shift because I was doing amazing things in the background. But then I really started to promote those and just make them a part of my content strategy. That's what was really helpful for me.
Yes. So back to the importance of the personal brand. A few themes that I'm seeing here, right, is the power of promoting yourself, like building your own brand out there. Even when you create your own company, promote the company, but also still keep your own personal brand going, so that if whatever happens here, it's not you. It's not one and the same.
I love that you said that, because I don't have a lot of regret, but if I could do some things over again, that would be one. Like all the time that I spent promoting AT&T Terminus or any other companies I've worked for, I was 100% focused on their brands.
Yeah.
And it should have been me promoting the great work that I was doing, projects I was a part of, organizations I was a part of. And that's something I'll never lose. But I definitely think that everyone, if you're in corporate, if you're entrepreneurship, whatever your journey is, you 100% should always invest in your brand. That's the IP that you can always take with you 100% of the time.
Love that. That's such a good point. Your IP.
Mhm.
I know we have to wrap up soon. I have a couple more questions if you can stay a couple minutes over.
Absolutely.
One, I would be missing an opportunity if I did not tap your brain on this side of things. Are there any tips or what's working or things that you're when it comes to like B2B advertising? Anything you're seeing with clients or from your own past experience, what is working, what's not working anymore? Any little tips under the
Mm,
hood?
I love that. I would say brands are still focused too much on themselves. And like a
Mm.
lot of times when you think about it, if I saw, and I see all the time SaaS companies, let's just say it's accounting software, because I'm a business
Yes.
owner, I need accounting software. If I saw an ad for accounting software and you're just showing sterile ads on LinkedIn, or you're promoting on your own page, nothing about that's going to stand out to me. And when you're getting to the point where you're okay being more edgy and risky and trying to really connect with people, you'll realize that a lot of the ads that we create, no one cares about. It's like, how do you connect with people? And people connect with people. It's hard for brands to connect with people. So I think really honing in on and finding ambassadors or influencers in your company, people that I can connect with and can help me see the value in your product, is something that
Yeah.
I feel like brands should really lean in on. If you had a really cool product manager that was showing cool features and things about with your accounting software, that would make me connect, because I can connect with them and they can be funny and they can be
Yeah.
charismatic, but they can really actually show me tips also too while I'm being entertained. I think you have to look at it too, like content has to be entertaining in some capacity, likely resonate with someone. So I say stop doing the sterile ads. Hey, we have the top B2B software, and then the cat. No one cares. Like,
Yeah.
and so when you realize, let me try to leverage some of my best people in my company who have that
Yeah.
personality, who have that it factor, and make them the focus. There are some brands that I think about specific people and not the
Yeah.
brands.
Yes.
And so I think
Same.
that's key.
Yes. Go back to the people, humanize things again, humanize
Absolutely.
B2B.
More than
I
ever.
love that. Huge. I feel guilty here myself too. I feel like I know the gist of this, right? I know we need to be more like, what are not talking at people. Oh, but we're great. And we do this and we're the top. And
No
this is
one
why. And these are our
cares.
features. Yes. It's so hard to slip back into that default mode because you're like in the trenches of all the like product marketing and then getting it out. But no, you have to stop that. There's a time and place. But
Yeah.
then for the ads and getting people in and creating that demand, you have to focus on the people, like tap their interest, pique their interest.
Just think about the top tools. I mean, because with tools, for every tool out there, there's 50 others.
Yeah.
And it's those, it's funny because sometimes I'll have clients, and not to ever speak to any client specifically, but I had a client and they were like, my product is different. It's nothing out here in the market like that.
Everyone thinks that.
Everyone thinks that like their product is like so unique. And while there may be some unique elements to it, I can probably, even if I can't find one exactly like it, I can piecemeal a couple others together to do whatever that
Yeah.
does. So you have to figure out what's that draw, like what's that magnet that's going to bring people in, because there's such a saturation of products and services.
Yes.
Like for me, even as an agency, for as long as I've been out and been in my industry, I know so many marketers who do the same thing I do. And I could say
Yeah.
I'm the best and no one else is. And like, how
Yeah.
believable is that? Like, you really only
Yeah.
know if you have the experience of working with me and multiple people. But
Yeah.
I use the LinkedIn and I connect with people and I humanize myself and I show them things that I'm working on, and I make that a part of my brand so that I can connect with people, not just focus
Yeah.
on 37X, like trying to connect with people.
Yes. And that's stickier too, right? Because if people like you and they want to work with you, that's not changing as long as you're being authentic and you're being yourself. good. Like then if you perform, don't perform, something happens, you can fix it because you're still you and that relationship is still there.
Absolutely. And also too, like we keep it fun and like we work because we have to. And it's like you also too want it to be enjoyable. I really enjoy
Yes.
my clients. I really enjoy my time on calls with people that I enjoy working with and I like and are
Yeah.
funny and we can have laughable moments on the
Yeah.
call. And it's not a piece of self-service software that you're logging into every day that we can have just genuine like engagements and have genuine moments. And that's really important to
Yeah.
me. And that's why even for every client at some point, even if I have an account manager on there, like I'm still interfacing with my clients because I feel like
Yeah.
I
Oh,
want to
I
keep
love that.
be a part of all of the work that we do just so that
Yeah.
I'm the one lightening the moment.
Yeah.
Like, I cannot stand like real sterile, boring calls
Yes.
with just
Same.
monotone. I'm like, I gotta lighten the mood here. So that's
I love that. Making sure you have fun with what you do. Like we spend so much time working, like you were saying, even though that is not like our rock, it's what makes our rocks possible, right? Then, but we spend so much time and we have to have fun while we're at work. We
we
have to
do.
enjoy who we're working with.
And that's the thing about
Agree.
entrepreneurship, Jane. You can create that. Like I said, you have this
Yeah.
blank canvas. Why wouldn't you put color on there? Like,
Yeah.
and I feel like I get to pick my coworkers. I get to pick my
Yeah.
clients. I get like when I was at Terminus, I had to work with whoever came through the pipeline. But
Yeah.
with this, like I get to be around good people, just genuine like connections with people. And
Yeah.
also too, you realize like sometimes, hey, I may not be a good fit for you. Like you also too understand that with entrepreneurship, sometimes saying no is okay as well. Like, hey, I
Yes.
don't necessarily think we're a good fit, but I have someone else that I feel like you would be really good like working with or could support you. But I
Yeah.
definitely feel like if I'm gonna paint this picture, I'm gonna paint a beautiful picture.
I love that. Speaking of, last thing I want to ask you today. If you could go back in time 15 or more years to Tanisha just starting out at AT or prior event, but just starting out in your career, what would you tell your younger self knowing all that you now? You could think on this one.
You threw a monkey wrench in there. I see what you.
Yes. I feel like you have so many gems. I have so many quotes already that I've circled on my paper for you that we could even just pick one of these.
Yeah, I love that. Such a good question because I don't want to just throw anything at you and I don't want to
Yeah.
say anything that I don't feel like is really meaningful.
Yeah.
And to the point I mentioned before, like I try to live a life like that I without a lot of regret. Ask me one more time.
Yeah. So if you could go back 15 years ago or more, Tanisha just starting out in the workforce, first job, what would you tell her knowing all that you've learned in the past 15 or so years?
I would say two things. One is to prioritize your relationships with the people and not the work.
Hmm.
Like people who work hard versus people who network have two different experiences. Like before, I was heads down, working, and
Yeah.
focused on being a high performer, but I wasn't moving up. And it wasn't until I focused on the relationship building where people genuinely liked me
Yeah.
that they really wanted me to come work for them. It was like they were recruiting me, and I haven't applied for a job in years. And so
Yeah.
I think that really focusing on the relationships is key. The second piece I would say is I heard this quote, and I can't take credit for it, but I love it. And it said, people don't get what they deserve, they get what they negotiate.
Oh, I love that.
That was life changing for me
Yeah.
because we spend our time working hard, thinking we're going to get recognized for it. And you have to ask, you have to make the ask. You have to
Yes.
have balance. You can't just go in and ask and not necessarily prove your value or prove your worth. And people need to make an informed decision to know to invest in you. But
Yeah.
have to be able to know when to ask for that promotion, when to say, hey, if I'm not getting it, it's okay for me to leave.
Yeah.
And so I think that was something that was really key for me is really like knowing when to really advocate for myself and just being informed.
Yes.
So those are my two things.
I love that. Those are gems. I put you on the spot. I don't think we prepped
You
this
did
question,
not.
but I know. And
I would have had a
still
really
gem.
good, just, written out answer, but that definitely came from
More
just.
authentic when it's on the fly. So thank you. And amazing. Thank you so much for sharing this with us. If anybody or all the listeners who want to get in touch, I'm sure you're going to get a few people who are considering going out on their own and have more questions. Is the best place to find you LinkedIn?
For sure. And I actually respond to people too. So if people have
Yeah.
questions about entrepreneurship, like no one gets here by themselves. Like I'm definitely always opening myself to have those conversations because people have done the same for me. So I just feel like it's paying it forward.
Love it. And as you can hear from everything she talked about today, too, if you have any questions on marketing and advertising, you want to pass something by her, that's also her wheelhouse. So definitely reach out.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much for sharing all your wisdom with us. I have a bunch of quotes that I'm circling. I'm sure a few things I'll put in show notes. So thank you. And thank you, everybody, for listening today. Thank you so much. And if you like the show, connect with Tenisha on LinkedIn, connect with me. Tell us what you liked about it and share with a friend, rate, review, like the show. It gets us in front of more people.
All the
So
likes.
thanks, everyone. Yes. Thank you, everyone. Have a great day.